Okay, guys.
I'm a complicated human.
Let's jump right on into game number 3 here for the Intel Extreme Masters Singapore. Oz versus Grubby. As we do have spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here are Blue Protoss, bringing it back 1-1. Guys, give it up for Fnatic Raycall's Oz. And spawning up in the top right-hand corner here, he needs your cheers as well, as he is currently 1-1 still with this player. Believe it or not. Give it up for Grubby. Did I just hear like a woo-woo-woo from our back production guys?
I think you may have. I think I heard it as well.
That was cute.
All right. Okay. So, well, at least we don't have anyone going across the map to make a pylon near their opponent's base. That's good, at least. You know, this is definitely a map that you see some cannon rushes on. Occasionally a proxy game, but more often cannon rushes.
Yeah. Can be a bit scary. There are certain areas of this map that do lend itself very nice to those cannon rush potentials. And for now, I mean, I'm just curious as to we'll see anyone deviate from Blink here. This is, I mean, Antigua Shipyard for a long time was definitively the Blink versus Blink map, but now I think Cloud Kingdom has really overtaken it in that situation.
Cloud Kingdom's actually even easier to do it on because you're already on par with their expansion when you're up in that area, and the entire breadth of it you can Blink in. So, I mean, there's no little areas where it's hard to do, like right on the ramp up to the expansion on Antigua. So I would have to agree with you. This is the ultimate map for that strategy.
Yeah, for now, Oz just throwing down a pylon near the edge, trying to keep an eye on everything that's going on there, as well as potentially even hide buildings. But if you put buildings on the edge of your base in PvP, that gets a little bit dicey in terms of, especially on this map. Once again, we keep coming back to this Blink Observer play, but it's true. It's just true. It's just a fact.
It's just a fact. That's a StarCraft fact right there.
StarCraft fact.
All right. So, still can't quite tell what these guys are planning. And, you know, how big a surprise do you think it'll be if Oz actually doesn't make it out of this group? Because already, as you mentioned, you know, White Raw not making out. First 2 groups of the day, kind of what you expect.
Yeah.
Right? It's pretty close to what you expect within one person.
After a tussle.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tussle and toil there in the first 2 groups.
There was.
And people like Pig, for example, bringing out so many formidable games, but just not making it.
Yeah, just barely falling there at the end.
Yeah.
But I feel like if Oz doesn't make it in the bracket stage, everyone's going to be like, what?
Yeah.
What?
It'd just be kind of odd. You saw on day 1, we look at the open bracket list, we see Oz, and it's like, oh, right, okay then.
Yeah.
That's pretty legit.
Well, right now Grubby is throwing down that second gate, which tells us he's probably going into Blink.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see some Grubby Blink micro here. There's a few different builds he can actually do with this. He's saving a lot of chrono at this moment. Okay, there you go, right on the core as soon as that probe goes away. He might be doing a 5-stalker rush to open. Whereas Oz, if he throws down a Twilight right away here, oh no, they're both going for sentries. I didn't expect this at all.
Is this really going to happen, Artos?
This is really weird.
Oh my god.
I mean,
call the surgeons. What's going on?
They're both going for sentries.
And the Nexus and no.
My brain. Okay, so this is the ultimate metagame going on here.
Oh my god, yeah, so much here. Grubby going for the build that would be considered not to be the wisest against a Blink play.
Yeah.
And then Oz just saying, I'll just go for a Nexus.
Yeah, and the thing is, will Oz behind this go Robo or Twilight? He will go Robo. That's the standard choice, but someone like Oz may mix in a Twilight after Expand just to be cheeky. But going into that Robo, I mean, that's going to give Grubby the situation where he can do some decent damage with the Phoenixes. He can definitely sit back and, you know, get a later Nexus, but still catch up because of the probe kills he can get.
Yeah, and I wonder if you were informed of this, but I've just learned that Grubby actually 2-1'd Lucifron in his first opening game.
Oh, wow.
And now, I mean, there's the potential. If he ends up winning this series, taking out Lucifron and then Oz back-to-back.
I know, right? These are 2 guys you think are going to make it out of the group.
Yeah.
Between those 2, Grubby and Slivko, I mean, we have some amazingly good players here, but Oz falling so far, you know, to Slivko already, and if he falls to Grubby, yeah, Grubby's going to take a sick lead.
And the great thing about the Grubby's build here, with the Phoenix and Immortals, it looks like the potentials for a 1 base, right? And the Phoenix end up negating his opponent's immortals just by picking them up. He could even kill off sentries if he wanted to, any kind of counters. Oh, but actually, obviously, with that pro in position, looking to go for the expansion, looking to secure that, keep that going. But he still has the potential for aggression with this pylon and the Phoenix vision.
Yeah, that's a really cute move there. I really, really like that. And, you know, he can literally do something like fly in with his Phoenixes, warp in 3 Zealots, fly the Phoenixes around to the natural, draw the units down there, then send Zealots in. And it can become pretty complicated to play against.
Yeah, it's really, really avidly. He's going to come in here, try and pick off a few workers, mostly and predominantly on the gas there, just killing off the ones that are very, very important. Sometimes your opponent doesn't actually replenish the positioning of those, and he still hasn't at this point, still scared of that Phoenix harass, and he's going to kill off a few more.
Yeah, and so far, so good for Grubby. He's getting his Nexus behind it, just very calmly, I'm glad to see. And, you know, this game is going to be really harass-filled from Grubby's side, but it should normalize from now. I don't think either player is going to try to kill each other anytime soon.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, right now we have 32 probes out for Grubby to the 30 of his opponent. Technically, he does have that Nexus lead, so he could take a little bit of a swing of a lead here from Oz in terms of that probe production. But still, Grubby's trying to equalize that out with the Phoenix harass, so it's good.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. He hasn't moved a single Phoenix, a single Stalker up to stop these Phoenixes or slow them down in any way. Not that it slows them down too much. But that's an interesting thing to see. It's almost as if he's preparing for Grubby to attack him at the same time, which, you know, normally you don't use that many lifts if you're going to attack, so.
Yeah, you're right. And that's actually, fully enough, that was something that I was commentating with. I recall this so well at the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship final in Season 6 about, you know, if you're not going to get aggressive, why would you, end up lifting so many probes and things like that.
Yeah.
So Grubby also feels very, very similar about that.
It's a true thing. You really have to use your lifts just right. You only have so many lifts with Phoenixes.
Yeah. So right now we have the Warp Prism on the way for Grubby. He looks to put on a bit more pressure. Twilight Council going down for Oz as well. He really can never go away from that Blink, but it's still, I mean, even if this later stage in the PvP, it's still super, super useful and should never really be overlooked.
Yeah, you know, Blink is quite useful, but you have to be careful how many Stalkers you get in that mid-game because as we enter the Supreme late game, the Blink Stalkers become less and less useful.
Yeah, and Charge, in turn, becomes slightly more useful depending on if you're able to get that flanks off.
Yeah. Well, Grubby continuing to move forward here, but I feel like, you know, his expansion is later. You know, he's gotten a Warp Prism here. He's made the Phoenixes. I don't think there's an actual attack timing here that he can hit. I don't think that he can actually kill Oz at this point. So I'm not exactly sure why he's in the center of the map.
Yeah, is it just some kind of like show of dominance kind of thing? I'm moving out into the middle of the map.
It's like banging his chest or throwing poop.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
It could be. I mean, sometimes you want to make your opponent think that you're doing something crazy, and what does it cost him? Not much, really. Not even a lot of safety, to be honest.
Yeah, just a little APM, just sending those units out there. He knows he's safe. He has the Watchtower control, so he knows exactly where his opponent, his army is at any given time. It's actually impossible to cross this map without walking into Watchtower vision on the ground.
Very true. Now, we do have, you know, Grubby made an extra mortal here, which I really like because his opponent has made so many Blink Stalkers. Having these 3 immortals in his army is going to make those Blink Stalkers in a head-up engagement pretty bad overall. So Grubby's got, in my opinion, a little bit better unit composition going down here. That's a lot of Stalkers, and I feel like the time for Blink Stalker value may be almost over, but is he actually going to go for an attack here?
Ooh, he's going to blink forwards. They're trying to pick off a Phoenix. But you're right about those Immortals. They provide such a great base for someone who's transitioning into Colossus. If anybody taught us that recently, it's SKT1's Reign. He loves getting that Immortal base, not necessarily at the very beginning, but after he's got a right amount of Colossi. And then it starts adding on Immortals to make it super, super DPS heavy.
Well, looks like we're going to have Oz do something here, some sort of shenanigans, sending a lot more Stalkers. He might have a massive blink into the main base, in which case he's ready to run up and force field the ramp. So he's actually going for a power play right now, but with that Colossus out, it's not going to work out as well as he would hope.
Yeah, those 3 Immortals actually pushing that back quite avidly there, especially as well, very, very well-placed sentries to actually make sure he doesn't blink forwards. He blinks actually to try and catch one of those Phoenix at the home, though. And for now, we'll kill off just a probe, so not too bad.
Well, you know what? Oz has like a good plan here. It's just not working out for him. Grubby is everywhere and on top of absolutely everything right now. He's got that big Colossus count coming in pretty quickly. He's getting that +1 attack a little bit faster. He's got a better unit composition. He's done a lot of harassment. At this point, they are tied up in probes, but Grubby has killed off more than his opponent.
I have a question, Artos.
Yes.
Do you think Oz should be taking a fourth behind this? At third, even, sorry.
I would definitely say so. I mean, if you're going for ultra-mobile units that can threaten base trades but aren't as good in a heads-up fight, you have to take more bases. Nothing else makes sense. So I am a little bit surprised he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah.
But maybe he's going for, like, a little timing here.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the great reason I asked, picking off the rest of those Phoenix, nice pick off there. Doesn't want to take that head-up engagement, though, just yet. The reason I asked was because this kind of play for Oz also limits your opponent's third, right? You've got those Stalkers dancing around for a while. Grubby has to muscle him out of that location initially to then take his third.
Well, looks like Oz really is getting ready for some sort of crazy attack right now, I have to say. He's getting Thermal Lance, finishing up the +1, sending out another Colossi.
But does this work against double Robo production that Grubby already has?
I would say no. I would say no, it probably does not, especially with force fields in play. I mean, maybe those Blink Stalkers can get something done, though. It looks like he is moving down the map with them a little bit more, keeping that pressure on two fronts. And, you know, he's containing Grubby from taking another base. But in the meantime, Grubby has done a War Prism drop in the main base of his opponent. And, in fact, Oz walking up, a lot of damage being done by Grubby, but Oz may have found a timing to actually push up here.
He might have done the Colossus now, trying to do as much damage as he can, but taking a lot of fire there. Blinks forward, kills off one of the Colossi. Zealot harassment still right on the main. And right now, Grubby will push him back just barely. That double Colossus production proving so useful there. If he'd have not had that double Colossus production, he would have been dead and dusted.
That is so true. And look at this. He's killed off even more probes. He's killed 21 probes at this point. A big deal in the matchup. Both players still sitting on just 2 bases. But, you know, Grubby, I feel like, still has a good enough army to hold on. I don't know that Oz can actually break him.
Yeah, and as this progresses, this just gets worse for Oz. Yeah. His opponent still has double Colossus production. His opponent is now working in charge as well as the Templar Archives. And if he actually wants to secure a third of this, or even if he wants to go for a push, once he gets these extra Colossi out, Oz is going to be in a lot of trouble. Yeah,
Charge Archon Colossus is the sickest composition in this point of the game. So, I mean, once he has that out, it's going to be lights out for Oz. And, in fact, Oz attacking up here. Oh, no, this is 5 Colossi against 3. He's got to get out of here.
Oh, those Sentries, they have so much energy. They just barely get out there. That was going to be close. Those Thermal Lances, they are quite packing a punch.
Well, what does Oz do from here? I guess he blinks in and tries to kill some probes off. He may as well, because these Stalkers aren't very useful anymore. But this isn't something that really matters to Grubby. Grubby's going to be able to take his third base with relative ease from here, whereas Oz cannot. If Oz goes and takes another base, Grubby will move in with Charge Lot Archon Colossi and kill it. As simple as that.
Yeah, it will be very easy for him to punish. And also, Grubby does have a pylon down to the bottom right-hand corner, so he can go for some aggression on his opponent's third, even if his opponent's army is all the way across the map. So this is really a good potential thing for Grubby.
Well, you know, it looks like Oz is going to take that third, because what else can he do here, right? He can't attack anymore. He is outdone in tech, although he's trying to catch up on that, but he has to throw down a base and try to get that up to try to get back to at least even. But Grubby is moving out, and this army is just so fearsome right now. It's 6 Colossus against 5. He's got that Archon tech as well, and way more Charge Zealots.
Yeah, he really does. Those Colossi are going to cause a massive amount of havoc there if he's not careful. And also getting those Archons now morphing in. They tank such a ridiculous amount of damage, especially if you're able to get the Colossi to focus down on the Archon. That's really not where the Colossus want to be heading.
Yeah, this is, you know, the Charge Lots are going to make the biggest difference, because Oz is popping out another Colossi in just a second here. So he'll be caught up and maybe even take the lead in Colossi during the battle. But these Zealots are just, they're going to be so scary. And Oz may not even fight for this. This is actually the right choice. He needs to back off and just cancel.
Yeah, and I think ultimately Grubby's into, I don't think even Grubby would have really taken that fight too much. I mean, what's your opinion on that? He could have just quite easily killed that off, moved back, and then just had his third before his opponent.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect choice. I wouldn't want to necessarily fight right now, because one bad clump, one good firing from your opponent, your Colossus goes down and you lose. So, you know, it's good for him to back up for now, I'd say.
Yeah, still double Colossus production in the way for each of these players. Grubby going for some Warp Prism harassment again, but he's slightly supply blocked here. He's actually going to try and force the engagement. He has a lot of Zealots. They're going to charge right in. They take a big volley from those Colossi. Meanwhile, though, a few Zealots are actually coming in from the back, messing with the firing of those Colossi. And from that point on, that one Zealot just alone could have actually changed the entire fight.
It actually just did. We just watched Oz win with a one Zealot flank.
Yeah, apparently so.
I mean, Grubby shouldn't have taken the battle anyways, as we were talking about, but that one Zealot coming up really messed up with the AI of Grubby, showing the power of a flank. Just absolutely amazing. And in fact, Grubby realizes that he needs to do something special, and that thing special may be dropping this Immortal.
Oh, he's going to try and keep going and try and chase. If he can kill off these Colossi, he can equalize the odds just a little bit. One of them is on the run from a 5 Zealot force there, and he will have to pull back for now. Those Colossus will do instantaneous damage to Immortal if it gets dropped, and... we need to talk more about that one Zealot later on.
Oz getting even more Archons. This is bad news, man. I mean, this third base of Grubby has to run his probes. No point to even try to hold that. He's making his own Archons as well, but Oz has taken this very important Colossi lead. Grubby is about to have a second one, and I mean, he does have a Warp Prism with an Immortal in it. It's still pretty close, but Oz definitely going to be happy with how the last 2 minutes have gone.
Yeah, very, very much so. That engagement just in general. You're right, though. Grubby didn't necessarily have to take it. He was being a little overzealous. And from that point on now, Oz finds himself a little bit of a lead. He's getting... Wait a minute. He's got +3 weapons on the way. Is that +3 weapons? It is.
Yeah, that's +3 weapons right there.
Wait a minute. What Grubby... Okay, 1-1.
Yeah.
That's not as bad as I assumed it was. But still, +3 weapons for Colossi is amazing.
It certainly is. Well, hold on. Oz coming in for a nice big flank here, but Grubby does pull up his ramp. And Oz doesn't want to make a big mistake, which we actually just saw Grubby make, which is just engaging at the wrong moment. So... I mean, this is still anyone's game, but Grubby has to get something done relatively soon here as Oz's third Nexus is finishing up.
Yeah, the tables have turned in essence, and whoa, wait a minute.
God.
Is that really happening?
Grubby forgot Thermal Lance.
Is that really why?
I guess that's...
I mean, that's another factor.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously a big deal. I thought he was microing forward to actually hit the Colossi, but it was more like... his Colossi were out of range. Oh, my God.
I cannot believe this. This is, I mean, these two things attribute for a massive, massive amount here. Even when he was attacking the Nexus, I didn't notice. I was just like, oh, well.
No, I mean, you just walked in. Yeah. I always walk in close so all my Zealots don't charge. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is normal.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay, so this actually explains a lot. Now, if Grubby ends up losing this game, this is like the worst way to lose, is that you forgot the most important upgrade that you never forget ever. Yeah,
that really is. Grubby, I mean, players can get an autopilot from time to time, just assume they've ended up clicking it and just... because they're doing so much else in the game.
I know, it's craziness. So, Oz suddenly...
This is... I'm sort of in disbelief. This is insane. He's getting the DT Shrine as well. Grubby realizes at this point he's so far behind. The table's turned in the way which Oz ended up killing his opponent's third base, and now he's got his third base up and running and well good to go with a very nice supply lead.
Yeah. He's getting Warp Prism speed as well, so it looks like he's going to do some speed Warp Prism with DT play.
Yeah.
But I feel like that may not be enough to bring him back into this game. I actually think that maybe if he just makes like 4 to 6 DTs and hopes that he can either snipe observers or the observers won't be with the army at the moment, maybe he can kill the army off and win.
Yeah.
But I feel like harassment is too little too late at this point. Oz, with a fully mining third base, a bigger army, a better economy, is not going to die because of a couple of DT drops.
No, you're right. It really would depend in that case where Grubby would take the engagement. If Oz was extending towards his opponent's base, and you're right, if he forgot the observers from the positions that they're currently in, because if Grubby wanted to get aggressive, for example, those observers are in prime position to actually deal with that kind of play. So, I mean, charge is on the way for Oz. He's mixing it in and getting a really good go with that. But still, I mean, he has 6 Colossus to his opponent's 3 right now. That's scary.
Yeah, and that's going to continue to rise. He's building 2 at a time to Grubby's 1. Grubby's economy's gone. He's long-distance mining till that Nexus finishes. He's just kind of walking around the map trying to figure something out. But can he?
if you look at the income tab, I mean, that says it all really here for Grubby. Grubby is, he's hard pressed. I mean, you mentioned it before, but this just gives you a really, really big indication as to how hard pressed Grubby is right now. And Oz, he's played out this game pretty well, but I mean, it's so far, to my opinion, been down to the decision making of, and the mistakes that we've seen in Grubby's play here.
Yeah, you know, if Grubby had Thermal Lance, this whole game may be different.
Yeah,
to be honest. He let's not forget, he had a lead on Oz that made us think that he had this game done.
Yeah.
And at this point, Grubby is fighting for his life. Oz is walking across the map with an ultimate army. This is one of the scarier armies you can see. Chargelot, Archon, Colossus, so many of each. Grubby's army cannot stand up against this.
Yeah, he needs to buy time with his immortal drops somehow, some way. But still, I mean, that army, I don't think it'll be deterred too easily. The Immortals are on the way. One Colossus, and the Probes actually come off the line to fight it. And again, actually, Probes are pretty darn good against the Immortals. Picks one up, needs to save the second one, warps in some Zealots, doesn't save the second Immortal. And right now, those Zealots could do a little bit of damage, but actually, oh, it's a DT.
Oh, yeah, DT's trying to get something done. Does save him. Doesn't quite work, but here we go. This is the death blow move from Oz. He's going for the win now. What does Grubby do from here? I think Grubby doesn't go back. I think he goes for the base trade with DTs and maybe hopes that something works out for him.
The Observer did get out here, so he will be able to clean up those DTs. Meanwhile, a ton of damage being done, absolutely ripping apart that third there. And now Grubby is on the warpath. He is going for that base trade, like you suggested, dropping a few more units here, trying to find a little bit of a location to actually try and engage. But even when this base trade's going, Oz is 100 supply up on him.
He really is, but you know that Grubby has basically no probes now, so that's 30 of it. So we can at least minus it down to 150 supply against 100. Still, obviously, a huge difference, but Grubby, if he could somehow kill all the observers, he has a DT out, and believe it or not, that's something that may make a difference.
Wow, you're actually really right there. I mean, there's 5 observers out. There's 5 observers, and everything gets completely ripped apart as well.
GG. A rough loss for Grubby there. Oz going to be very happy with himself, but Grubby forgetting that Thermal Lance, that's what it comes down to. Grubby really had that game until that one engagement where he didn't have Thermal Lance.
And there you go. There's the sportsmanship of Grubby.
Yeah,
shaking it, going over to shake his opponent's hand instantaneously, despite what had happened in that game. It's a fought-out battle. Grubby realizes he made those mistakes, and Grubby realizes that it was his fault in essence.
Totally. All right, well, that was Grubby against Oz. A really nice series indeed. Oz still in the running, as is Grubby. Absolutely nothing decided in this group yet, as far as I know. So
yeah, Grubby, I mean, he took out Lucifron 2-1 in the previous series. So he still has a lot of room here to still advance on through the bracket.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We're going to be back very soon with our next match. This is the Intel Extreme Masters in Singapore.